From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
We're beating Biden.
How dare he say that?
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America. Hello and welcome to Firstpost America, your global pit stop for the latest news and headlines from the United States and around the world. I'm Eric Ham, coming to you live from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C. We'll get you a roundup of all the day's top stories, but first, let's take a look at the headlines. Clashes break out between pro-Palestinian protesters and Israeli supporters at the University of California in Los Angeles. Police officials respond to the university's request for support. Turkish police arrest dozens of protesters attempting to gather at Istanbul's famous Taksim Square after the Interior Ministry bans May Day celebrations. South Korea holds talks to join the nuclear security group AUKUS, comprising the United States, the UK, and Australia. This comes just weeks after Japan also held formal talks requesting entry into the defense pact. Ukraine claims a drone strike on a Russian oil refinery south of Moscow. The Kremlin confirms the attack without reporting any casualties. And the United Nations completely ends peacekeeping missions in the Democratic Republic of Congo's rest of South Kivu province after 20 years. The move comes as the region witnesses a spike in armed violence by the M23 rebel group. We begin with Donald Trump and his latest legal entanglements. The former U.S. president has been slapped with a $9,000 fine for violating a gag order in his Manhattan hush money trial. Judge Juan Marchand said Donald Trump violated the gag order 9 times and was fined $1,000 per violation. But prosecutors have detailed at least 14 counts of possible violations by Donald Trump on which the charges will be determined on Thursday. Now, Judge Marchand also warned Donald Trump that any further violations could invite jail time. Now, many of the gag order violations relate to Stormy Daniels and Donald Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen. However, Trump is barred from also attacking witnesses, jurors, court staff, and even their relatives. Now, despite the long list, the ex-president attacked Judge Marchand right after being slapped with the fine.
You have a judge who's totally conflicted, absolutely conflicted, that he's rushing this case through. I'll tell you what, somebody just told me they'd never sat for such a long period of time in a courthouse before. It's ridiculous.
And Donald Trump did not stop there, also calling the gag order unconstitutional and a violation of his First Amendment.
Okay, thank you very much. This gag order is not only unique, it's totally unconstitutional. I'm the Republican candidate for President of the United States. I received this honor in record time. Nobody's ever gone faster. It's never happened. Nobody's ever got the numbers that we got. And I'm sitting in a courthouse all day long listening to this stuff.
Now, Donald Trump's hush money trial has entered its 3rd week, with the former president facing 34 felony counts of falsifying business records related to money paid to adult film star Stormy Daniels during the 2016 presidential election. Now, Trump has pleaded not guilty to all of the charges, calling the trial a hoax and a political witch hunt overseen by President Joe Biden.
The whole thing is a hoax. All of them were hoaxes, including the civil cases. They're controlled by the White House. They're controlled by Democrat judges and prosecutors that were put there specifically. They hate Trump. And the people are getting it. That's why we just came out. A new Emerson poll just was released about 2 minutes ago. And I'm leading by a lot in every swing state and leading in the general election.
Now, Donald Trump wasted no time in using his ongoing Manhattan trial as a platform to again challenge President Joe Biden to a debate.
I'd love to debate anytime, and I think it's a good time to have a debate, even though it's early. But 6 months is pretty close. November 5th is going to go down as the most important day in the history of our country, because we're going to turn our country around. Our country is going to hell. It's going to hell. It's very sad to see. But November 5th is going to be the most important day in the history of our country.
Now, the ex-president's hush money trial is only one of the 4 criminal indictments that he's currently facing. And even if the punishment in the Manhattan case amounts to merely a fine, the trial remains historic, with Donald Trump becoming the first current or former president ever to face criminal prosecution. And moving to the Middle East, Israel has made a complete U-turn on its plans for the city of Rafah, days after Israel's foreign minister said that his country would not invade Rafah if a hostage deal was secured with Hamas. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has now pledged to invade Rafah regardless of a deal. The Israeli Prime Minister says the operation in Rafah is necessary for the elimination of Hamas. Meanwhile, Washington has raised concerns over Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's plans for launching an operation into the Gaza city.
That is correct. Continues to be the case that we have not seen a credible plan that would address the varying areas of concerns that you've heard me talk about a number of times from up here and others, primarily the ability to address the serious humanitarian concerns surrounding, again, Rafah is a region with more than 1 million people seeking refuge. It's an area that continues to be an important conduit for humanitarian aid, as well as a safe departure for foreign nationals. And so any kind of operation that does not address some of these key concerns would certainly be opposed by us.
Now, Israel has already been carrying out airstrikes on Rafah, which houses over 1 million displaced Palestinians. In fact, Prime Minister Netanyahu's comments for a ground offensive comes as U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken visits Israel. Secretary Blinken has assured Israel of American support in rescuing the hostages being held by Hamas. And America's top diplomat went on to say that the ball is now in Hamas's court.
Look, our views on Rafah, I think, are very well known. The president's been very clear about it. I've been clear about it and repeated it as recently as yesterday. Where our focus is right now, along with the humanitarian effort, our focus right now is on getting a ceasefire and hostages home. That is the most urgent thing. And it's also, I think, what is achievable because the Israelis have put a strong proposal on the table. They've demonstrated that they're willing to compromise. And now it's on Hamas. And no more delays, no more excuses. The time to act is now. So our focus is on this, and we want to see in the coming days this agreement coming together.
Secretary Blinken also met with the families of Israeli hostages and assured them of securing a deal with Hamas.
Bringing your loved ones home is at the heart of everything we're trying to do. And we will not rest until everyone, man, woman, soldier, civilian, young, old, is back home. There is a very strong proposal on the table right now. Hamas needs to say yes and needs to get this done. That is our determination, and we will not rest, we will not stop until you're reunited with your loved ones. So please keep strong, keep the faith. We will be with you every single day until we get this done.
Now, Israel's latest ceasefire offer includes the release of 40 hostages in return for a 40-day truce in Gaza. And Hamas has already said that they have no major problems with the offer, but the Palestinian group is yet to provide a definitive response. Will a truce between Israel and Hamas finally see the light of day, or will Prime Minister Netanyahu's calls for invading Rafah derail the deal? And moving to the Caribbean nation of Haiti, the Transitional Council has chosen little-known former sports minister Fritz Belizaire as the country's next prime minister. This comes a week after the council took over power following the Prime Minister Ariel Henry's resignation.
According to this agreement, the majority also took the opportunity to make this choice or proposed a prime minister. Fritz Belizaire was chosen. I'm sure you will have a lot more to say about this afterwards, and especially, perhaps with the various members of this majority.
The new prime minister now faces a daunting challenge to quell the gang violence that's choking Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince. However, leaders of powerful criminal gangs are clamoring for political influence and amnesty. In fact, they've threatened violence if the council does not meet their demands. And notorious gang leader Jimmy Cherizier, the catalyst and chief instigator of the ongoing violence plaguing Haiti, has warned of consequences if the gangs are ignored. Cherizier said, and I quote, it's either we are all at the table or the table gets destroyed with all of us, end quote. Now, criminal gangs have taken control of 90% of the capital city since they launched coordinated attacks in February. More than 90,000 people have also fled Port-au-Prince just last month amid a severe security and humanitarian crisis.
This morning we are publicly recognizing the suffering of all the victims, all displaced girls, all women, all the people who have suffered from acts of rape, all the people who have had their houses burnt down, and all the entrepreneurs who have lost their businesses.
The transitional government has acknowledged these challenges and assured Haitians of ending the ongoing violence. However, residents remain doubtful whether the new government can help calm their troubled country.
The first thing that the Presidential Council must do is look into the security problem. Insecurity has made this country unlivable. We are going crazy, running everywhere and nowhere to go. After security, they need to resolve the hunger. People are living in misery. Misery is destroying the population. Look at all the trash over there.
Now, the new council will act as the country's head of government until it can arrange presidential elections sometime around February of 2026. But the bigger question is, will the gangs allow the council to operate freely, or will they force yet another prime minister to resign? And now, shifting focus to Latin America, the military in Colombia is caught in a massive scandal. And the one who uncovered the scandal is none other than the country's own president, Gustavo Petro. The Colombian president has accused the army of theft of millions in arms and ammunition. He says the huge cache of missing arms came to light during his visit to 2 military bases. The Colombian president now fears that the stolen arms have landed in the hands of rebel groups or may have been smuggled to Haiti, where gangs have wreaked havoc. Our next report goes inside to explain what happened to the missing weapons.
The military in Latin America's Colombia is caught in a massive scandal. The country's army is facing allegations of theft of millions of arms and ammunition. And leading the probe against the military is Colombian President Gustavo Petro. He says arms in huge numbers are missing from 2 military bases, and that military personnel must be held responsible. The missing items came to light during the president's surprise visits to the army bases. Petro says he visited the bases Tolemaida and La Guajira in February and April and found discrepancies in the inventory listed on official records.
Among is ammunition, explosives, grenades, weapons such as missiles, etc.
At Tolemaida, there was a shortfall of more than 808,000 bullets and nearly 10,000 grenades. Meanwhile, at La Guajira, almost 4.2 million bullets and over 9,300 grenades were missing. 2 Spike missiles and 37 Nimrod missiles are also gone, which were manufactured in Israel. Now the president has accused military personnel of selling these weapons to arms traders. He also claims that the missing items could have gone to rebel groups within Colombia and may have been smuggled to Haiti or the international black market.
The only way we have to explain this type of shortage is that for a long time, there have been networks made up of people within the military and civilian forces. These have been dedicated to a massive illegal arms trade using the legal weapons of the state. These are the Colombian state's legal weapons. Their destination would be, in my opinion, to armed groups in Colombia. These have gone probably to foreign conflicts. The closest one is Haiti, which is 7 hours away by speedboat from the base La Guajira, and probably also to the international arms smuggling market.
Now the Colombian government has launched an investigation into the missing weapons. The defense minister says that some army officials have been moved from their posts given the probe. And President Petro says that he's planning further inspections of military bases across the country. The investigation comes at a time when the Colombian government has resumed fighting in the southwest against a rebel group. The South American country has suffered from decades of conflict involving the government, paramilitary forces and rebel groups. Petro launched peace talks with some rebel groups since he was elected into office in 2022, and as a result of that, fighting in some areas has reportedly decreased. But critics of the president say these groups continue to extort and kidnap civilians.
And finally, in Africa, the year-long civil war in Sudan has driven the country to an acute hunger crisis. In fact, the situation is so dire that people are being forced to eat soil and leaves. In fact, in some regions, residents are eating the seeds they bought for planting, while others are selling furniture and clothes in exchange for food. Desperate for a day's meal, many are sacrificing their pets to quell their hunger. And while the war shows no signs of stopping, Sudan now stands on the brink of famine. Our next story shares the terrible plight facing the country.
In Sudan, a year-long war has turned lives upside down. The African nation is facing the world's largest hunger crisis, with nearly 18 million people facing severe food insecurity. But this crisis is man-made. In April 2023, a civil war broke out between the two rival factions of the military government of Sudan. The Sudanese army forces and the paramilitary rapid support forces. Since then, the two sides have breached several ceasefire agreements, leading to widespread violence. The year-long war has led to the world's largest displacement crisis, driving more than 8 million people away from their homes. And now, as the war continues unabated, Sudan faces an acute food emergency that threatens to kill hundreds of thousands of people. There is so little food that in some areas people are resorting to extreme measures to survive. In the capital city of Khartoum, people in refugee camps are eating soil and leaves. Residents say tree leaves boiled in water and sprinkled with salt have become a part of their diet.
The children were collecting tree leaves and eating them. They took mango leaves and ate them. My cousins walked next to the school and collected the tree leaves, cooked them and ate them because we didn't know if we would have food for breakfast.
In West Darfur, farmers are resorting to eating the seeds they bought for planting. In the Kordofan region, many are selling furniture and clothes to gather cash to buy whatever little food they can afford. But now Sudan's hunger crisis has hit catastrophic levels. Desperate for food, many people are now sacrificing their beloved pets to fill their stomachs.
People find solutions. Pigeons, they eat pigeons. The geese in the river, any birds and small birds, it was normal. There were people in the neighborhood who ate the cats. Either you die from hunger or you find a way.
The country is on the brink of a famine. According to the charity Doctors Without Borders, one child is dying every 2 hours as a result of disease and malnutrition. Life has become a daily battle for the Sudanese, and the outlook is only getting bleaker. Although the international community has sounded alarms over Sudan's situation, foreign agencies are struggling to get adequate aid to the country. There is civil war on one side and worsening hunger levels on the other. For the Sudanese people, it is an unending struggle. a struggle where they find themselves between bullets, fighting for bread.
That's our show for today. We certainly thank you so much for tuning in. We hope to see you right back here again tomorrow. Thanks again for watching. From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
We're beating Biden. How dare he say that?
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America.